Hey guys, it's me, Amanda. I was just going to be giving you guys a little demo today about some really cool techniques you can use in your paintings. The first one we're going to look at is a technique called Scumbling. And this is a dry brush method. It's used to kind of help blend different colors. It's especially useful in when you're doing backgrounds. As you can see, I have my little setup here. This is a really quick, just, plain red and green background. The colors that I used, they were straight out of the tube, so they're full intensity, although I did add a little bit of white just to adjust the value, make it a little bit easier to show up here on the video. I just used colors that you guys should have in your kits already, so it's not anything crazy that I'm doing. You guys can definitely do this at home as well. So yeah, I had the permanent green light I used here for the ground, and then for the red it was just like the cadmium red medium. And the reason why I just put them on at full intensity is that generally when you're starting a painting, oftentimes you'll just, you'll do your first pass and you'll look at it and your colors are maybe a little bit too vibrant. Like in this case, they're a little bit too much, so I want to go in and kind of tone them down a little bit, and that's where Scumbling can come in. So the first thing I wanted to show you guys is the kind of brush that I will be using. So you can see that this is an old beat up brush, and that's kind of what you want. You don't want to be using your best brushes, your brand new ones that you just bought, because we are going to be messing these up a little bit. As you can see, this one has a lot of different hairs, little bristles sticking out, and that's going to be really good for Scumbling. We want something that's a little bit rough, a little bit stiff. You don't want to use like a super soft brush for this. So this kind of brush is good. So if you don't have an old beat up brush, I would recommend getting just a cheap brush. Something you could order off Amazon right now if you're staying in, which you should be. So just finding something, that you're not gonna mind if it gets kind of messed up. So, all right, let's jump into it. So, I just put down a little bit more of my red and green on my little palette paper here. And I also got a little bit of yellow because I decided I wanted to add some yellow. So you can see my colors are down there. And because this is a dry brush method, you don't want to dip your brush in any water. We're going to just start right off the bat with, I'm going to mix a little bit of my red and green to kind of tone down my green. I want a less vibrant green. And don't be like me, use your palette knife when you are mixing colors because you'll get a much more even color, but for the sake of just doing something very quick for you guys, I'm just using my brush. And basically all I'm doing is just mixing a little color there, and I want to try and take off as much as I can off the brush. So you'll see me kind of wiping it off, and you'll see I only have just a very tiny amount left. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here over at the side, and just very lightly I'm going to start moving my brush around in a circular manner. And this is Scumbling. So I'm adding just a very small amount of paint at a time and just blending it out. And by doing nice, even, circular motions, you get a really cool effect. see, I can see a little bit of that red in there, which is kind of nice. You guys are working a lot with, you know, simultaneous contrast in a lot of your paintings. So right now I know you're probably still working on your paper construction project, and you'll see when you're just looking at it in the box that you'll have colors just kind of bouncing and dancing all around. And that's essentially a really good way to incorporate scumbling, is because you can really just get subtle colors in the shadows of things, you know, and where the light hits things and reflects things off. So now I'm looking at this and I'm like, I went a little too far. You know, it's a little too dark. I want to bring back some of that green. So I'm grabbing just a little bit more of that straight green out of the tube. And again, I am just dabbing it on my palette paper, just trying to get off as much as possible to just leave me like a little fine bit on there. And now I'm gonna go back over, because this dries very quickly because we're using such a small amount. Then go back over my kind of reddish color here. I'm gonna bring some of my green back into it. And you can just keep doing this. You can keep layering different colors and you'll get different effects. And it really looks cool, especially for the projects where you're using some sort of construction paper too. This is a really nice way to get that texture that you want, because construction paper has that kind of tooth to it. It's kind of, you know, it's a little bit gritty almost, you know, it's not smooth. It's definitely not a smooth paper. So now I'm just adding a little bit more green, but I've added a little bit of white here, just because I was looking at this and I'm like, oh, it's a little too dark now. So now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to scumble just a little bit more. And so you can really see how you can add and subtract colors and blend them really nicely just by using this method, and it gives you a really cool effect. So let me see if I can zoom it in here for you guys a little bit so I get a little bit more of close up. I'll do a little bit more in the red area so that you guys can see it. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to the red. And I did just wet my brush a little bit to take some of this green off. But now if you can see my little brush, I'm wiping it off just on a rag. I really want it to be dry before I scumble on this red. So if you need to, you know, wash off any colors in between, just make sure that you're drying your brush really well before you're going to the next area. With scumbling, you really just don't want to use water with it that much. Kind of takes away from it. What happens when you add water to it is, if you're going over the same area, you'll end up just removing the paint that you just added. And we're going to go into that a bit more when we do some glazing as well, because that's something that takes a little bit of patience, because if you try and rush it before your layers have dried, you're not going to be happy with the results. You're going to end up just taking away from it. So now I decided I want to add some yellow to this background. I feel like if I set up my still life, I'm seeing the way the light is hitting it and it's creating a kind of yellow sheen. So again, you're just scumbling away here. It's creating a really nice soft texture. I want to add maybe a little bit more red to it. That was maybe a little bit too much paint, so if that happens, make sure you take off the excess, and then you're just going to want to blend it out more take any excess off the brush and blend, blend, blend. So as you can see, not a big deal. It's still a little bit wet, so you can just blend the heck out of that. So keep going, and then you'll just see you get really interesting, if I can focus here, effects with it. It creates a really cool background. You can use it on other objects as well. I know going forward you're going to be doing a still life with fruit. So like the skins of certain fruits, like if you're looking at like an apple or mango, even an orange, you know, this would be really interesting to scumble and mix that, because those, like the fruits themselves, the way the light hits them, they're going to create a lot of different textures and colors. So it's kind of a nice way to get like a subtle look on it, especially if you have something that's, you know, kind of ripening. So you have something that's going from maybe like green to red. So you can do like a nice transition of colors there. And then you've heard us talk before, you've heard Sandra talk about it, you've heard me talk about it, about simultaneous contrast. So basically, that's when, like we were talking about, if you have your still life, you're seeing colors bounce all around, and that's just an effect of the lighting. So if this was an actual still life and I was looking at this, I would probably be seeing some of this red reflecting down onto the green and vice versa. So I'm going to add just the most subtlest of little color down here, and scumbling is a really nice way to do that. So maybe a little bit more here. Now add a little bit of red, and I'm going very, very lightly with this, so it's just leaving like the faintest impression, and I'm just pulling it down a little bit, and there we go. I just want a little bit of red there. And you can determine how much you need or want to add. If you feel like you went too far, it's super easy to just go back in and add a little bit of this original green, and you're basically erasing it and taking it back out, and just you do what looks good to you. I'm mixing in, I'm blending it, I'm smoothing it out, so you can get really, really smooth with it by the more you blend with it, or you can just go kind of really lightly and get like a little bit of a rougher texture too. So you can just kind of do a little bit more rough there. And let's add a little bit of green up to here. And take a little bit off. I just wanted a subtle amount, so now I'm just getting a little bit of green up in my red. So, and I'm just blending, blending, blending. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, that's too green. And now I want to take a little bit away, so I'm going to add a little bit of my beautiful reddish orange here, and just tone it down a little bit. And then that's basically it. You just go back and forth, bringing out different colors, different, shades that you want. As you blend them together too, you'll find that you are creating even like more of a variety of colors and hues, because when you overlay certain colors, so say you have, you overlay a yellow over red, you're going to get like this really pretty orange hue that comes out of it. I just had a little bit too much paint on there, so I'm scumbling that into oblivion there. That green definitely toned down my red a lot. I want to bring it back out. I'm going to show you an example of one of my paintings that I did a lot of scumbling on as well. And then we will go into our glazing, which is going to be really fun. So I just wanted to show you how easy it is. So you saw I got really muddy, but it's really easy to just kind of bring back the red just by scumbling in more as well. And voila, I mean, that's it. That's really just the process. You know, if you have any questions, as always, you can always email myself and Sandra. Some of you have my, or you should all actually have my phone number as well, so you can always text me if it's just a quick question. Oftentimes it helps if you can take photos of an area that you're like struggling with or having an issue with, because that way, you know, it helps me visually. I can maybe help you out a little bit easier with that. Real quick, I'm going to grab my painting, kind of show you the scumbling. So this one was one I did in painting one. This was the Fruit Still Life. So as you can see, I have my kind of wonky bottle here. But this was, I used scumbling on the background. You can kind of see if I get close. It's got like a lot of different colors mixed in. Scumbled in the shadows to kind of add a little bit of color to there. This was a mango, so I scumbled in some different colors and things there. You know, got some of our simultaneous contrast, so these greens are coming down onto my ground as well. Got any golds and things. And then this is also an example of glazing as well, which we're going to get into next with this bottle. It gives you a really nice, cool effect, especially for reflective surfaces. So we're going to get into that next. So hang tight. Okay guys, we are back and we are going to be doing some glazing now. So as you can see, I have a very wonky looking glass right here. This is done very quickly, so please don't judge me. It definitely could look better, and it is going to look better because we are going to use a technique called glazing on it. Basically what glazing is it's adding a thin, like almost wash onto your painting. It's usually done in layers, and it's really, really nice for, say, like glass or like reflective surfaces. It works really well. But you can also use it, I've used it to help with skin tones a lot. Like I'll do several layers of different colors to get a more natural look. You can use it with clothing as well. If you have, you know, like say you had satin or something like that, something kind of rich and reflective, and it's showing a lot of different colors. So it works really nice with that. But there's, you know, limitless applications for glazing, so definitely use your imagination. There's different methods for glazing. The easiest, simplest one is you just add water and you water it down, but you don't always get like great control with that. If you add too much water, it's not really going to show up very well. You know, sometimes if you're adding water to already dried areas, it can take it away the paint as well. So the method that I like to use that seems to work well is just mixing a little matte medium with my paint. So you should have gotten some matte medium in your kit. It'll probably look different than this one. This is just the Golden brand, but pretty much all matte medium, any matte medium will work well. And basically you just take a small amount of that and you mix it with your colors. For the sake of this glass, I'm just using black and white with it. It's, you know, in real life, this glass, if it was set up within the still life, you'd be seeing a lot of different colors in here, but I just wanted to kind of show you guys, you know, what the effect looks like. And then definitely if you're using it on your own, just pay attention to what colors you're actually seeing in the glass. That way you get a good result. So basically I'm just mixing up a little bit of gray, just a little bit of black and white, and then mixing in my matte medium. And when I say like using a little bit of a matte medium, it's actually, for this ratio, what seems to work best is like a 50-50. So if you have 50% paint, 50% matte medium, that works really well to give you just a light wash of color. So going in right now, I have a really fine brush, and I'm just going to be adding some layers here. And as you can still see some of the reds and reds and greens through this wash. I'm actually gonna switch over to a slightly bigger brush here. It's just so I can get through this a little quicker. It's really not adding a whole lot of color to it, as you'll see, and that's the point. That's what we want, because you build it up in layers. So your first pass, you're probably not going to see too much going on, but as it dries and we build it up, you'll start to see a little bit more. So I'm just making sure I have a good first layer on, because what you want to do is once you get that first layer on is you need to really let it dry, because what will happen if you try and add another layer too quickly, you're just going to end up pulling up all that paint. So right now we added our first layer. Not too much of a difference, and I'll definitely zoom in on this as well so that you guys can see a little bit better, maybe, if it'll zoom. There we go. You can start to see the glass taking shape. You'll start to see like some of the reflections happening here. For my next pass, I'm going to go a little bit lighter with color, so I'm going to do like a lighter gray, and just kind of see how that looks. Doesn't take too long to dry, so you don't have to be super patient, because it is acrylic paint. We all know that, you know, love it or hate it, it does dry very quickly. So now I'm going back over with a lighter gray, and now you can start to maybe see it a little bit better. I'm just kind of imagining right now how my glass would be looking, you know, if light was hitting it. So maybe I'll just go in. This whole glass is just a little bit lighter here. But as you can still see, like, you can still see that background through it, and you can still see that red and green, and that's kind of what you want, because with a glass you can obviously still see through it. So now that I've added that layer, now maybe I want to go in and add a little bit darker, because even though glass is clear, you definitely still get those shadows in it, you know, where the glass is a little bit thicker. So now I'm going to switch back to my finer brush so that I can add some details. And again, just keeping a good, I'd say like 50-50 ratio. Sometimes you might have to experiment with it. Sometimes you maybe want to use a little bit less of the matte medium if you want it to be like a little bit more pigmented, or sometimes you want to use a little bit more if you want an even lighter wash. So it's one of those things I recommend really experimenting with before you go and try and, like, you know, put this on your finished, almost finished masterpiece, you know. So I'm just going in and thinking about where, you know, the shadows would be hitting on this glass. Adding a little bit of this darker color. Maybe I'd see it like on the sides here. You know, seeing it down at the bottom a little bit. And with this brush you can definitely, or I'm sorry, with this technique you can definitely keep your brush a little bit more damp. I know with the Scumbling you want to keep it as dry as possible, but with this one you can kind of move it around a little bit better when your brush is damp, so definitely don't be scared to try that. So now I'm just going in, I'm adding detail, and I'm going to add a little bit up top here, top of our glass. As I said, this is a very wonky glass, so definitely do your glasses better than I do. You know, pay attention to your ellipses. But you get the idea. So as we're going in, we're adding layers upon layers of glaze. You can kind of start to see your glass taking form here. And maybe you're looking at it and being like, oh, I want to add now some really bright reflections where the light would be hitting certain aspects of it. So we'll go in and we'll add some lighter color in a sec. I tend to get a little carried away here. So we have some shadowy colors. Starting to come together here. Alright, so it's starting to look more like a glass, but we need some of that really nice, I feel like some bright white to kind of give us that nice sheen. So I imagine we get a little bit along the rim here, a little bit on the sides, up here at the top maybe, down in the bottom of the glass, maybe a little bit on here, and you start to see it, like it's starting to come together. It's basically just a lot of layering, but it's a really nice technique. So instead of just putting on the paint, you know, right out of the tube, you know, it's fully pigmented, you're doing washes, just layers and layers of washes, and it gives you a really pretty effect. And like I said, you can use this in a variety of different ways. It doesn't just have to be for glasses and reflective surfaces. You know, really experiment. You know, you could do different washes if you're have your fruit still life, you know, to get maybe like the sheen on an apple or something like that, or you know, the sheen on an onion skin even. You can do different layers. You you know, if you have a landscape painting that you're going to work on for water, this is a really, really nice technique. You can get really beautiful, you know, layers of hues in there that will really, it'll look like real water. So definitely, again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We'll be doing some more tutorial videos as the semester goes on as well. So keep an eye out for those, and I hope that you guys enjoyed, and good luck. I can't wait to see all of your paintings. I miss you guys. I hope you're staying safe and healthy, and I'm sure we will see each other again at some point. But yeah, stay safe, stay healthy. Miss you. Bye.